Hi guys, it's Hannah and I'm making a video for you today about how to set up your SmartNode just in case you needed a bit of a guide. Right now I'm just checking out how long it is until the launch of SmartNodes. So you can see that payout will start on block 300,000 and we're currently on block 296,000. So we're very close. It's really exciting. And I thought this might be a helpful guide for you. I am definitely not a tech person. You're going to notice when I refer to a URL as an URL. But if I can do it, you can definitely do it. So check out this guide and I hope that it helps you. Okay, so let's start setting up our SmartNode as quickly as possible. So the first thing that I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to create a new address that I can send exactly 10,000 smart to. So I'm going to name this address SmartNode01. Okay, and I'm just going to copy this address so that I can send exactly 10,000 smart in one transaction. And we can see that 10,000 has magically appeared. Okay, and it's just pending there at the moment. So what you would need to do after you've sent the 10,000 smart is you're going to need to get some information that will help to create the nodes. So you go to help and the debug window, and then you would click on console. And the command that you would need to use for this one is SmartNode outputs. And this command is what will help you find the transaction ID. Now it's giving you nothing at the moment because my 10,000 smart is still pending. So what I'm going to do while we wait for that transaction to confirm and for the 10,000 to clear through, I'm just going to go into my library and I'm going to make sure that I have the files that I need for the SmartNode setup. So I'm going to need to find my smartcache.conf file and also my smartnode.conf file because I'm going to need to edit that as we go along. Okay, so in this smartcache.conf file, I can see that tx index equals 1, and that's perfect. That's what it needs to be to set up the SmartNode, so everything's good. And then the next file that we're going to need is the file called smartnode.conf. So this file will be in your wallet once you download and install the latest version of the SmartCache wallet. And in here, it has an example for the configuration of one SmartNode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that on the line below because we will need to edit it as we go along during the process. Okay, so I can see that my 10,000 smart have confirmed now. It's no longer pending. So we can go to the help debug window now to find that transaction ID and the transaction index for the 10,000 smart. So we're just going to do that command SmartNode outputs. And there we have the transaction ID for the 10,000 smart and that index. So I'm going to need to copy the ID and I'm going to paste it in here in the smartnode.conf file. So you can see that the transaction ID is showing up there and the transaction index is correct as well. Now the next command that we want to use is SmartNode gen key, and that's going to give me the key for my SmartNode that I'm going to need to get it activated. So it's really important that that's correct. It's really important that the gen key is correct, and also really important to have the right transaction ID and transaction index as well. Next thing that we're going to need to do is to set up a server so that we can have an IP that we're going to use to actually run the SmartNode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to vultr.com, but you guys can use whatever server provider you want. There are a few different suggestions in the SmartNode setup guide. So yeah, just choose whichever one works best for you, but I really like vultr.com. So you're going to need to sign up for an account, and then I'm just adding in all of my information here, payment information, because essentially I'm going to have to add some credits onto my account to pay to run the server for my SmartNode. And I'm going to want to run my SmartNode for a while, so the amount of credit that I'm going to choose is $50. Now that will probably allow me to run my SmartNode for about 10 months, and then I can always come back to my account later whenever I want to, just to top it up with more credit. Okay, so we're going to create a new server. I'm just going to pick Seattle. I mean, I don't think it really matters too much, the server location. For the server type though, it definitely does matter. So you want to choose Ubuntu or Ubuntu, however you pronounce that, the 16.04 64-bit. And then for the server size, 25 gigs will be fine for what we need it to do. You can add other features down here as well if you want to, so like enabling your auto backups and different things. In terms of enabling IPv6, SmartNodes don't work with IPv6, so there's definitely no need to tick that one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to name my server, so I'm going to call it SmartNode 01, and then I'm going to go ahead and deploy it. Okay, so it's still installing, but we can see that we already have an IP address. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go back to the smartnode.com file to paste that in. Okay, so I've pasted that in there, and then I'm going to change the name or the alias to SmartNode01 just for consistency. Okay, so we've got all of the information in here that we needed to copy and paste in, which is good. So you've got your alias to begin with, which can be whatever you want it to be. You've got your IP address that I copied and pasted from the server provider. That port 9678, that's never going to change. That's my gen key that I got from the debug window. That's the transaction ID for my 10,000 smart, and that's the transaction index. Now we need to wait for our server to start, and it's actually running already, so that's great news. So if we click into the server, then we can see different information. We can see the IP address, we can see the username, which is root, and the password is there. So I'm not going to show the password, but I am going to copy this password. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open Terminal. So this is for me on Mac, but if you're using Windows, you can install something called Putty, which is P-U-T-T-Y, which is an SSH terminal, so you can connect to your server. On Windows, once you open Putty, the instructions, the command should be the same, but if in doubt, you can always check with the SmartNode setup guide. And I will leave a link for that guide down in the description below. So I'm gonna arrange everything. So I've got my terminal in front of vultr.com. And then it's gonna be easy for you guys to see. I'm going to use the command ssh root at, and then the IP address. And then once I enter that, it's going to ask me this question, and I want to say yes. And then on this part, I'm going to paste in my password that I copied from Vultr before. So I'm connected as the root user to my SmartNode server, which is the one that I've just created. And so I'm going to install it using a method called bash. And you can find the official bash repository from the SmartCache GitHub. I will leave the URL for the SmartCache GitHub down in the description, but this is the official GitHub. There is a project called SmartNodes, and if you open that one, inside you are going to find the bash installer. You basically need two command lines. One is wget and install sh, which is going to download the bash file, and once we download that, we're going to run with bash install. So the first thing I'm going to do is download this install sh file, and to do that it's the wget command on Linux. So you can download the file, which is really quick. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call the bash install. So this is going to be getting everything ready. It then gives me this message to say the script will reboot the server when it's finished. So I want to press enter to continue. And then I don't need a custom SSH port, so I'm going to press enter to ignore. And then one thing I do need to paste is I need to paste in my SmartNode gen key. So I'm going to go back to my smartnode.com file to copy that one. And then I will come back to the terminal and I'm going to paste it in there. And once that's done, I just press enter and then the magic will start happening. So we're just going to let this do its thing. It shouldn't take very long, so it should be ready for the next stage in a minute or two. So it's finished installing and it's rebooted the server, so I'm just going to have to connect to it again. So it's just the same command as before, SSH root at and the IP address, and then it's going to ask for the password, which I just need to go and copy from vulture.com. Okay, perfect. So I enter that now and I can see that I'm connected to the server again. And to check if everything went okay, I'm going to use the command smartcache cli get info, and I'll be able to see that it's just downloading the blocks. So I just need to wait for it to get to the most recent block, which might take a while. It could take up to 1 hour. So it's been about half an hour since we left it syncing, and if I check again, I can see that it's now up to date. It's up to block 295,593 at the moment. So it's all ready to go on the server side. Now what I need to do is to go back to my wallet. So first of all, I'm going to make sure that my smartnode.conf file is saved and closed. Then I'm going to quit my SmartCache wallet, and then I'm going to open it back up again. Okay, so now that my wallet is open again, I'm going to go to the SmartNodes tab to check on my SmartNode. And if I click My SmartNodes, I can see that there's a new entry here. It's that SmartNode 01 with the IP address that I set up earlier, but I can see that the status is missing. So I'm just going to right click on this. I'm going to click Start Alias, and then it's going to give me this message to ask me if I'm sure. I pop in my password, and then it tells me that SmartNode 01 is successfully started. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click OK on this, and then it's showing me that the status is now pre-enabled. Now, to check that everything is okay with my SmartNode, I'm going to go back to the terminal. And I'm going to use the command smart-cache clear SmartNode status. And that's showing me that my SmartNode has been successfully started, which is awesome. So now I just need to wait for that status of my SmartNode to move from pre-enabled to enabled. So that might just take a few minutes while it's just refreshing. And here we go. You can see that my SmartNode refreshed and it is currently showing up with the status enabled.